Good morning, everyone. Looks like we've got Glenn and Shauna and Amanda. I don't see Dave McKenna yet, but those are the committee members. I also see Kate Supron, welcome. And there's Amy Hendricks, Nancy Zahler, Patty Poist, Jennifer Tavares, Ashley Bryant, Doreen Hedrick-Atkins, Dominic Recchio, Lori Kowinski. I think Mike Klinkelaar is on the telephone, is that right?
Yes.
And morning, Mike. And Katrina McCloy is with us here. Kathy's in chambers with us, Kathy Covert. Anybody that we're waiting for that anybody knows of? We'll just get started. Changes to the agenda. I think you folks hopefully got sent a revised version of the resolution that we have on at number 5 on the agenda about the asking for an extension of the time for Census to finish up its work. Mainly a small change in the title. Did anybody not receive that? Sounds like we got it. That's good. Any other changes to the agenda? Do we have any public comment this morning, Kathy?
No.
No public comment. Committee, let's take the minutes of August 3rd. Someone want to move those? Shauna, seconded by Amanda. Discussion on the minutes. Ready to vote? Amanda?
Yes.
Shauna?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Dave McKenna's in now.
Oh, Dave's in. Dave, how do you vote on the minutes?
Yes.
Dave votes yes. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
All right, committee, let's also go right ahead with the resolution. This is the revised version, urging that the U.S. Senate pass and President sign legislation to extend deadlines for the Census Bureau until October 31st, 2020 for enumeration and April 30th, 2020 for data analysis and reconciliation. Someone want to move that?
Yeah, I'll move it, Mike.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second? Second by Shauna. Thank you. I'll just say that I want to thank Martha Robertson and the Tiger Committee for the work on this resolution that was passed on to us so we can get it out of here as quickly as possible. Discussion. Mike Klinkelaar, do you want to say anything about, are you still there, Mike?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, and you want to say anything about the current schedule and anything about our request for an additional month?
No, I appreciate the committee's work. As you're aware, there are now 2 federal judges who have issued a stay to not implement the shortened time frame requested by our president. But that still, I believe we're going to have a hearing in California on the 17th of this week, and we'll find out if that stay will be, continued so that enumeration can continue through October 31st or not. As of this moment, all enumeration will be stopping on September 30th unless the court system prevails. But the present schedule, if indeed enumeration stops on September 30th, will be to deliver the data to the president the 31st of December. The reason for the court appeals is that people do not feel that that's an adequate time to have an accurate count and data analysis that will actually count every citizen as the Constitution requires. So we appreciate this resolution. I know you sent some letters as well. I think there is some momentum building, but we won't know anything until that court presentation on the 17th. I have reviewed the wording and it looks all very appropriate. And again, thanks Martha for writing it and all the details included.
I wondered, Mike, will the census workers still be on the payroll in October? Sorry, Mike, did you catch that question?
Oh, I was on mute. Sorry. Every enumerator is aware that as of this moment, they may be, their time may be ending on September 30th, but they are also aware and prepared to be extended. So I think that as of the 17th, the direction of their longevity can be extended, and they're all ready to do so. As we speak, many enumerators from certain parts of the country that are winding up are being relocated to other parts of the country where there's a high need. For instance, New York workers are going down to Atlanta. I worked over the weekend getting some workers from the New York region out to a Navajo Nation in the Southwest. So people are being mobilized to address the need in different parts of the country, but they can be extended after the court case on the 17th if that's what's decided.
If there's other questions, please raise your hand. But Mike, that kind of begs a question from me. Do we have enough enumerators in Tompkins County? I know we've had trouble getting as many applicants as we wanted. I mean, if they've got people to send to Georgia, if they got enough to send to Tompkins County.
It's a very good question, and there is a lack in the North Country of New York, so people are being more mobilized there, and I think there is a slight deficit in Tompkins County, so we will get a few more workers reallocated here.
That's good news. Anyone else on this resolution? Are we ready to vote? Let's start with Amanda.
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Shauna,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
and I vote yes. So that passes unanimously. Thank you.
Mike, could I just add one sentence about enumeration even now?
Sure.
I think people are aware, I did send something out, that enumerators are required to go as many as 6 times to a door if someone has not completed the census, if they can determine that. So there have been and will continue to be calls of people with some concerns. You know, why is someone coming to my door 6 times? Sometimes an enumerator will go to a door even when someone has already completed the census. So you all just need to be aware, and I think I sent a summary of some of those reasons out. But there are quality control reasons. There are, checking for duplicate records, reasons for that they may come back again, even though someone's filled it out. So just want people to be aware if they get a call from constituents or citizens in their community, that there are sometimes very valid reasons for a double check. But otherwise, thank you for all that you're doing to get the information out all the way through September 30th and if extended through October 31st.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to our reports. Amy, do you want to talk to us about the grant funding? I know some things changed since our last meeting, not for the better, but go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to talk about it, Mike, but I will.
Thank you.
So we continue to experience some challenges with the state funding. When the state provided back who could be funded, the list got shortened very much. And then as we looked at the projects that could still be implemented, only one of the nonprofits was able to kind of take that in. So we started to work with the nonprofit, it was Al Huda, and what they had prepared to do was some tabling and some activities that were no longer able to be done based on what New York State had said the grant could do, as well as based on the contacts they didn't have anymore because of everything that has shifted due to the pandemic. And so it really was at the last hour that Nick and representatives from the organization were going through how could we make this work, and came to the determination that within a month, so all of the funding needed to be spent by the end of September, there was no way to actually do what they were trying to do. And so we determined that there's not a way forward with this grant at this time. There were so many limitations placed on how the funding could be distributed. It still had that 75% had to go to nonprofits, however, only qualified nonprofits. We had some libraries that were qualified who in the beginning had said yes, but then afterwards had said, we just can't do this. This timeline is a little insane now. We're talking spending money in September, delivering services in September, and moving it all very quickly with not really a way to do that. And so while the state did eventually provide the funding, we just weren't able to implement the programs to use that funding. So we are not going to be putting anything forward for this grant.
Well, I know it wasn't for lack of trying in county administration. You and Nick have been working since, I think, November to try to get some of that money into Tompkins County for the outreach that it's intended for. But in the end, the state's giving us zero. Is that right?
That is correct. That is correct. And we have reached out to them to let them know that they're still willing to provide funding, but it just doesn't work for us. There's not a way to make that happen. And I do give Nick a lot of credit, as well as the nonprofits, in trying to think outside of the box and find different ways to do their work. A lot of the grant in version 1 through 4 or 5, I don't even know how many times we've rewritten this thing, was really, face-to-face interactions and tabling and things like that, and then shifting to mailings and then shifting to other forms. And so a lot of credit should be given to trying to make this work. But at the end of the day, it was just a little too late to make it all come together.
Well, fortunately, we did authorize a small amount of money from the county, and we've been working on that. And let me just ask if there are questions about this issue for Amy. Nancy Zahler.
Hi, Amy. Thanks so much for trying. I know how difficult it can be. If the deadline for enumeration is extended through the end of October, would any of those activities been feasible in that time frame?
Potentially, had we known about it before the middle of September. I think that's kind of the challenge, as even with this, we didn't really know what we could do until August. And so it just becomes this pinch timeline to try to work with partners, because that was the biggest piece, is while the nonprofit can work kind of independently, they really wanted to work with partners. And so they were working with the school districts, they were working with business community, and it was coming together. But how the work is being done, it just forced them to try to think differently and get something done. And it's not against them at all. There was a very small list, and we did create new partnerships here. So there are some successes to this, but I don't think with the given new time frame that it would even be possible at this point. I will say that Dominic and the public information officers and his team are looking at other ways to push out information and have been pretty successful there. But as far as the grant, no, I don't think we'd be able to pull it off.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Anything else, Amy, you want to mention for us?
I don't think so. I think Dominic will give you updates on the other ways that we've been using that funding that you were just talking about, Mike, and how we have been successful there. So I'll turn it over back to you.
All right. Then let's go to report for the Public Information Advisory Board. Patty and Dominic.
I can let Patty start if she has any updates.
Hey, yeah, well, most of the people who participated in the last PAB meeting on August 10th are in this meeting and have spoken. And Mike Kaplinka-Lear at that time gave us the response rate had crested past 60% in Tompkins County. And then we went into, Dominic's campaign, or the county's campaign, in lieu of what the state, what we were hoping with the state, which I think I'll let Dominic talk about that because they did a great deal of work. So.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, and I just wanted to give a continued shout out to all the community partners who have done great work. Patricia, who's on the line from the Latina Civic Association of Tompkins County, put together a fabulous video in Spanish that's been shared a whole bunch online. And was really, really well put together. So I just wanted to give a shout out there because that's a really fabulous piece we've been able to use. In terms of our campaign, the rest of this month, we'll be doing a big final push on social media. We're going to be focused on sort of all the different things that the census impacts in your community. So talking about a lot of the different services that are offered by governments, a lot of infrastructure things, trying to get people to really connect with the services that are offered to them. The bus ads went really well. We got a lot of great feedback from that, so thank you. Yard signs, I still have a couple more left, but there are certain legislators and city council members and town of Ithaca representatives all sort of took those and put them up in their areas, delivered them to some individuals' homes as well who had identified. I think legislator Anna Kellis and a few others sent it out to their listservs, and then individuals who either are neighbors with students or other things asked for those, so we dropped them off at their homes. So there's a nice spread of those yard signs out there. So yeah, the campaign is going really well. I think the last few weeks of this month, you'll see we wanted to really fill that last push with the social media advertising and things. So you'll see that. I thought that our timing on the Cornell Daily Sun and Ithacan advertising was really great. I haven't gotten the final report on the total click-throughs from that. From the Daily Sun, but it was the headline ad during all of the return to campus stuff. So I think it was a really well-timed piece and paid off quite significantly for a relatively low investment. So thank you to this group for doing that, and I think it's been a good campaign so far.
Dominic, do you want to mention the help we've been getting from the local radio station WRFI?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been working closely with WRFI Community Radio, which reaches a wide swath of the community with a lot of different types of programming to put together some PSAs. Fred Belfour, who's the assistant news editor there, I believe, has put together some great catchy PSAs. And he always asks great questions about what services are impacted. He talks about schools. He's got real data that they're using in those. So we work closely, and I take a look at the messaging to make sure it's correct and ready to go for the PSAs there. And those will run multiple times a day, every day through the end of the month. I have encouraged them to do multilingual PSAs that have to do with their the different programming that they have. I want to say they have a few programs a day in different languages, and I've at least suggested they do them in those languages. So I haven't heard back on that formally yet, but I have put out that request to them. I'll follow up with them on that today, actually.
That's great. And we know you've been working hard on top of everything else you've got to do.
Yeah, and I've encouraged other media folks to continue to cover the census as well. And I'm thinking about at least one more sort of press release about the push toward the end of the census to really to push that out. So you'll see some more about that in the coming couple of weeks.
Questions for Patty or Dominic? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go to reports from our college reps. We've got Kate and Doreen. Who'd like to go first?
I can go because I'm unmuted first. So Cornell, submitted our data on all students the last week of August. The group quarters data went in by spreadsheet through the group quarters process on the 26th of August. It took us an extra day to sort out who was getting what for our on-campus students. That was a totally different submission process to a totally different organization. It went into a geographer named Frank Tolbert through the SWIM module, the Secure Web Incoming module. So we have reported on all students at this point. I don't have the data on what percentage of the off-campus students we had local addresses for, because local addresses were voluntary for off-campus students until this fall. But off-campus, they should have had the name and date of birth, which should be enough to help pull double counts. So everybody went in. We've continued to have, and I am requesting that data, it's just that it had to come out of the registrar's office at the point in time when they were already working 100 hours a week to get everyone registered for classes. So I'm waiting back for a report on how the data looked when they pulled it. We continue to have a lot of action from enumerators who are in some cases like sneaking into campus housing facilities, which they're not allowed to do. So we've been working to explain that our students on campus have all been counted, and that our students off campus have also been counted. But there seems to be, and I totally get it, I know it's a really big organization with many parts. The enumerators who are on the street and their supervisors don't have the information. And on campus, they just shouldn't be anywhere, but off campus, there's a breakdown in getting the information on which addresses are cleared with the response, because it's not part of the same system. So that seems to be causing some confusion. But the good news is that we have a 100% body count into the census. And I'm sitting here answering questions now about, did we respond on the students on floors 3, 4, and 5 on this college dorm? It's like, yes, we responded on everyone. So that's that. And I think that'll help the county's response count when it all shakes out to a tremendous amount, because that should be.
I'm sorry, Kate, I don't know whether I totally understood. You said 100% body count. Is that just the on-campus, or is that on campus and off campus?
On campus was through the traditional long-standing group quarters process. And then the end of June, the director of the Census Bureau reached out to higher ed institutions across the country saying, we also would like universities and colleges to share data on their off-campus students. That request had never been made before. It was a separate process to submit that data, but we did submit data on all of our off-campus students as of the 1st of April as well. For those, and for both batches, we changed our directory information policy so that we could stay within the bounds of FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, and give more than just their names. So on campus, I believe we gave name, local address, and the birth date. Off campus, if we had the local address, which they are asked to submit voluntarily, we gave that along with name and date of birth. So we have put in, at minimum, name and date of birth of every student who was registered at Cornell and in Ithaca on April the 1st, both on and off campus.
That's great news.
Yep.
Wonderful.
I know, it would have been really nice. If we decided that last summer, it would have been much easier. But instead, we designed, 3 different processes, but the end result is what we were all looking for, which is a complete report. And Doreen, I think I've given your name to a couple of the people who have been calling me, so sorry. But I figured it was better for them to call you, because we just continue to get like totally random outreach, which eventually, I hope, in many cases is making its way back to me, whether it's coming in to directors of individual residence halls, to the housing office, to the president's office. So I keep giving that same piece of information that everybody's been reported on.
Nancy, I see you, but let me go to Doreen first, and then we'll ask for questions, general questions. Doreen?
She's on mute.
You're still muted.
Tell her she's.
There we go.
There, all right.
Must be a Monday morning. I'd forgotten about mute and unmute. So our on-campus students were counted very early in the process and have been for quite a while. Our registrar's office has to do the off-campus information, and honestly, I just messaged her this morning and she said, oh, I think we dropped the ball on that because they've been buried rearranging the schedules 2 and 3 times. So I'm going to get her that information about how to submit that. Kate, I may reach out if I can't find that because you probably have it more handy than I do.
Sure, I can, yeah, I can just send you right now the contact information for for Frank.
Okay. So we will get that done before the end of September. We have the same dilemma that Cornell has, is our off-campus students have not been required to share with us their contact, their local address information. So we will do the best we can on that and get that turned in. Kate, phones have been surprisingly quiet. I don't know if that's because nobody's on campus, so everything's going to voicemail and everyone's ignoring it, or if they just haven't been calling or somebody else has been handling it and I haven't had to. So that's where we're at.
Okay, what questions on this issue, Nancy?
2 different questions. One is that I'm delighted that they've made it easier for you to report, and thank you for doing that. But back in the spring, when all the students were sent home, a lot of us did outreach to encourage individual students to respond. I don't know if this is a question for Mike. I assume the census will somehow sort out rather than duplicate. I mean, I wouldn't mind a duplication. If we're voting twice, we may as well count our people twice, but
No, we've been
Yes.
talking, that the census sorts that out.
Mike, do you want to respond?
Yes, that's the reason for the period of time to weed out duplicates, look at the quality control of the data analytics between when the enumeration stops and when it's delivered to the president. So that's why there's literally a court case, because you can't do it in too short a time.
great, thank you. The second follow-up is, when for the universities that don't have the individual addresses for off-campus students, is there a default municipality into which their count falls? So, I mean, if Cornell students lived in Dryden as well as Town of Ithaca and City of Ithaca, sort of where do they get counted? Do we know?
Mike, I think that's to you again.
Yeah, I can't answer that. The only thing I know is that they had an original database of housing units, and they know the distribution of those across jurisdiction.
Okay,
But besides that, I don't know if they cross-reference, dates of birth and names, as Kate was summarizing, with addresses, which of course they can't do if they don't have an address. So I really don't have a good answer for you.
okay, just curious. Thank you, and thanks for your efforts on campus.
Other questions for Kate or Doreen?
Good morning, this is Lori. May I ask, just for clarification, does that include graduate students?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, thank you both for being here and reporting to us. Let's get some reports from our agencies that have joined us, of course. I think I'll start from the bottom, go around. Let's start with Patricia, if I say that right.
Yes, thank you. So we produced a video promoting the census specific. It's in Spanish with English subtitles, and we've been distributing it through our social media and asking people to distribute them through their personal networks. We're very concerned about farm workers not registering. I know from friends in similar organizations across the upstate area that there's, at least in other areas, farm workers are undercounted by a significant number. Also concerned about lower income people in downtown and Dryden and the town of Ithaca also being undercounted. But of course, we have no sense of what it actually is. So we're just going ahead and continuing to promote. The video from the responses I received seemed to be well received. And, you know, it's unfortunate that we cannot measure its impact. That's about it.
Well, I'd like to say that the fact that we're doing it is a major impact, and we thank you for the work on that. Other questions for Patricia? Patricia. Got to get the accent on the right syllable there.
Thank you.
Patricia, Mike provided me with some census materials in Spanish. I'm guessing you have them as well, but if you needed more, I do have a packet left.
Okay, we've been distributing those with the CNY Latino.
Beautiful.
And again, you know, we don't, you know, there's one has gone out with the material, with the newspaper every month for I think the past 3 or 4, since Mike dropped them off at my house, which was, I think, sometime in April. But I may pick those up and, you know, make one last effort if this is our last month.
Be glad
I
to
have
have
more
you
as
put them out
well.
there.
All right. Anyone else? Let's go to Lori.
Morning, thank you so much. I want to thank the county for the Summer Youth Employment Project. Again, we were so pleased to be able to hire an intern, a young man named Delvin, a rising high school freshman. So he's quite young. You heard me mention him last time. So just an update. Delvin really did this under my supervision. I have to give him credit. He made all those calls, about 1,000 calls to Catholic Charities clients. Certainly didn't get through to everyone, but made a lot of calls, left a lot of voicemail messages. And then we weren't hearing back from anybody, so we just figured out for ourselves how to do texting, mass texting through a Google sheet. So we sent out text to about 600 clients whom we hadn't connected with. Those people we left messages for, the number was busy or what have you. But sort of our best guess at the numbers that were still good. I think we did 2 rounds of texting, and we might have one more a few little credits left to do a few more. So that included, you know, the link and phone number to do the census. So we hope that got some play with people. And then in our agency, we did have a sort of a soft, slow, careful opening of our clothing closet. Nothing like our normal numbers, but we are open, a little bit limited hours and certainly limited number of people allowed in. But Delvin tabled several times and also at a couple of the food pantries, and directly between his work and mine, we guided about 15 people face-to-face through the process of participating in the census. Again, much lower number than what we wanted, but at least we caught those people who hadn't done it yet. So we hope some of this has had some impact, and I will probably continue, as I said, to try a little more of the texting this month before the end of the enumeration. So we hope we've at least gotten some low-income folks who wouldn't otherwise have participated.
We know your organization's been working hard, especially to get some of those very hard to reach people. And we thank you for that. Questions for Lori? Folks are easy this morning. Ashley. Oh, wait a minute. Patricia.
Hi, good morning.
Patricia had a question. I want to catch her.
Lori, are you able to reach farm workers?
I can't say that I directly have a lot of connections with Tompkins County farm workers. I could more easily have a connection with the farm worker camp in southern Cayuga County and King Ferry. But you and I could certainly talk about other people that might have more experience of visiting the dairy farms in our county.
Okay, I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay, then let's go to Ashley Bryan.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Our efforts at TC Action continue to remain pushing forward. Last week, we hosted a social media campaign encouraging our community members and our families that we participate with to respond to online media posts stating that they've taken the census. And as a result of that, we created a bunch of census swag gift bags that we have distributed amongst the community, which was really successful. We continue to also have our one-on-one conversations as we do our case management with our folks. The Head Start classrooms have reopened, and we recently received a large donation of books about the census for the kids, and they're called We Count. So we have shared those with our classrooms as well. And we also have been pushing with texting and emailing as one final push to get the word out as well. And we continue to promote through our food pantry distribution, which has been probably the most successful form of contact thus far for us. And also with our job applicants that we have been interviewing, we take that opportunity as well to mention the census and share the importance of that. And that's really it.
Well, that's a lot. I have a question. In your interactions, your group with folks and informing them about the census and encouraging them, what kind of feedback do you get from them? Are they interested, glad to know about it, say they don't want to respond, or are afraid, or what?
It's been kind of mixed. The majority of the responses we've received, they have taken the survey. And then there's a handful that are still unsure as a result of their immigration status and things like that. So we just have that conversation, remind them that, your information is protected under federal law. Your response assists with programs like this that we coordinate to help the individuals in Tompkins County. So that a little bit more of the conversation has made them understand that it's a wraparound service. They need to reply to the survey to be able to receive the continued assistance that we have here in this county, which is great.
That's so important. Thank you for doing that. Other questions for Ashley? Okay.
Thank you.
Go back to Mike Kaplinkalair. Was there other things you'd like to report to us today?
Yes, just two quick things. Someone mentioned the numbers from PIAB last month. The self-response numbers, which are different than self-response plus the enumerating numbers. The self-response numbers for Tompkins County are at 62.7. We do not have the total numbers. That would include enumeration by people who are on the streets. But we do know the total for New York State is 91.3. So if you look at the New York State, and this is going to be slightly complicated, I'll try to say it clearly. The New York State self-response rate is 62.3, and Tompkins County self-response rate is 62.7. So if the New York State total response rate is 91.3, we can expect, a little bit of unsurety, but we expect Tompkins to possibly mirror that. So we're probably up in that 90 category, especially with what Kate reported already this morning, and I know Doreen's going to be putting in numbers. So we're moving that needle significantly, and everyone's efforts combining are really helping. We do have lots of material still, whether it's Spanish or English. We have yard signs, and again, if it's extended, we want those yard signs up through the end of October. They're basically a different yard sign than Dominic was referring to. These are just generic, it's not too late to reply yard signs from the Census Bureau. And we have, several hundred if you need them, and we have things to hand out at events. So let me know, I can deliver. Thank you very much.
Mike, on your response rate numbers, do you have any comparison to where we were approximately in 2010?
Yes, there is a comparison, and we are ahead of where we were in 2010. Thankfully, partly the reason is that this year people are able to do it online, and Tompkins County, compared to many places across the country, is more savvy with online. So Tompkins County is ahead of 2010, partly because of that reason.
That's good news. Other questions? Patricia?
This is for Mike. Mike, do we have a sense of the ethnic and race breakdown of the response rate?
It's an excellent question, but we do not. We have census tract information previous to enumeration. So if you look at very census tract detail on the self-response rate map, which is on the 2020 census.gov webpage, you can go to a tract, and then the tract will have the demographics of the tract before self-response started. But we don't have post data yet. It just has not been analyzed.
Okay. Thank you.
And Mike, these figures you said were as of August 31st?
No, the numbers I gave you just now are as of yesterday.
As of yesterday.
The self-response rate map is updated every day about 4:30 or 5 p.m.
Okay. Other questions?
Mike, tell us one more time, how many signs do you still have? It sounded like a lot. Lawn signs.
I have 200, and I can order more. I can have some sent directly. We can send bundles of 5 to any partner. I also obviously can deliver to any partner since I'm around Tompkins a lot. That's where I live. I'm also covering 9 other counties, but we have other people who can deliver. So any quantity we can get to you. I think in the New York City office, there's 6,000 signs left. So we can order more if we need them, but I have 200 in the room that I'm sitting in right now.
Are there particular places you'd like to have them put out because the response rate is low?
It's a good question. We've gotten them to all the school districts in Tompkins County, most of the municipalities. We're working on libraries. So it's really places that people are driving by regularly and have a sense of trust that institution is reliable in promoting the census. But in terms of actual demographics, I think people have mentioned ad nauseum that the student population is one, but we also have a mechanism for covering all of them if everything works out well. We do have rural and field, a little bit of new field, a tract, and I think, of course, downtown Ithaca areas, both north side and south side are 2 areas in Ithaca.
You're certainly welcome to drop 10 off at Catholic Charities if it's easy.
Will do.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Mike. Not an easy job covering 9 counties. Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up this morning or anything else for discussion? I would remind our legislators that there are still signs here in legislature chambers for some people to pick up. If you haven't already, please pick them up and stick them out there somewhere. They're not political, they're non-political. So, Nancy.
Just a question for others on the group or Mike, if there's any particular message. I'm about to get on a phone call with all town supervisors in about 15 minutes and can push any sort of more targeted message to them if you have one you want that's particularly salient.
Yeah, because of the date of the enumeration ending September 30th, which we have to rely on at this moment, I think the 3 words that I would say is it's not too late. So convey that and have them put up their yard signs and use their whatever social media and put things in, communications that are going out from the, local town clerks to remind people. But that's the main thing. We now have basically 2 weeks until the end of September, and that's the push unless circumstances change. But thanks for asking.
Great, will do.
Would certainly be nice if they all had some reference to it on their town websites.
Yeah. I think they've done different kinds of outreach, but I will definitely remind them.
Okay. Well, looks like we've got our next meeting is October 5th, and either we will have ended the data collection or we will have another month. We don't know yet. As Mike Kaplank-Allaire has told us, there's a court action. So let's write that down for August 5th at 9 a.m. And we're glad to have as many of you as possible at that meeting. Anything else this morning? Can I get a motion to adjourn? From Amanda, seconded by Glenn. And then, so we're adjourned. Thank you all, and we'll see you and continue our efforts in every way we can for the next month.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, everyone. Stay well.